right. Well, here we are. Welcome to this episode of Group Thinkers. I'm your host, Justin McCord. And with me, as always, is Ronnie Richard. Ronnie, we both did an excellent job of making sure that our dogs are entertained so that Soraya is not interrupted. So we're optimizing. That's what we're doing here is we're optimizing.
That's the theme, right?
Yeah.
Dog's got a Kong. Well, I think she may have fallen asleep, so I think we're good now.
See, even better, even better. So excited for this conversation, very excited for this conversation. When we first started, connecting with the team at Classy, we didn't know, Soraya, that we were going to end up getting to chat with you. So we're thrilled to have you. Welcome to Group Thinkers.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I had to escape my house so my kids would be distracted. That's my optimization today. So it's good to be here.
Good. Yeah, that's very good. It's funny. I've been lamenting as everyone else in my house. I've got a middle schooler, a fifth grader, so a second one entering middle school, and my wife's an assistant principal. They're all counting down the days until summer because they could not be more excited. And I'm counting down the days until school starts next year because it's going to get loud. It's going to get loud.
Yep. You can join me here in our offices for quiet podcast recording going forward.
Yes, we'll definitely figure out for me to get from Dallas to San Diego to take in the view that you have. And so this is Group Thinkers. It's the podcast from RKD Group. On each and every episode, we have someone connected to the nonprofit marketing space who's helping solve complex problems. And so, Soraya, that's the buildup that we're giving you today.
Yeah, I love it.
That is certainly a part of what your team at Classy does. And complex problems are a way to think about the current conversation theme that Ronnie and I have been walking through with a number of individuals around digital advancement and how nonprofits are kind of taking things one step forward at a time in terms of how they resource or approach or activate and leverage digital, and it's rather complex. Yes. And so we thought it would be good to bring in someone who knows a thing or two about the complex and specifically in the world of technology. So Soraya Alexander from Classy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. It is complex and frustratingly so, I think, for this sector. And so I'm really eager to chat with you about some of the things we've learned. But it's a tough world to be in. So very happy to be here.
Yeah, it's an ever-changing world, and there are times where, I feel like Ralph from Wreck-It Ralph whenever he first gets into the internet and the speed at which things are moving and those sorts of things. But it's okay. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through the conversation today. And but I want to start, Soraya, with your journey and understanding the ebbs and flows of how you got to Classy, and then obviously, your current role as Chief Operating Officer, kind of your scope and what you oversee. But tell us your path into this nonprofit space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it probably helps to say up front, Classy is a fundraising software for nonprofits. It helps organizations raise money online through, core donation pages, through event ticketing, through registration with fundraiser, peer-to-peer. We've got a whole suite of products. And so my journey to this, actually, I started in the nonprofit space. I worked in DC. First, actually, I spent a whole semester in college basically taking a gap from classes and working at Amnesty International in the refugee department. Absolutely loved DC. Went after graduation to work for a public interest strategy and communications and digital agency, just working for some of the largest nonprofits and foundations. Ended up getting hired by one of our clients, PBS, out in California, worked on one of their national nightly shows and a series of documentaries doing publicity, strategy, digital engagement, again, like you could see the theme here. And then took a detour a little bit, went to business school and spent some time in digital engagement, transformation, and e-commerce, as well as customer loyalty. So I went to media for a while and then went to retail. And I worked actually at a Fortune 500 retailer, so Dick's Sporting Goods for like 6 years in e-commerce and loyalty. And what that teaches you, the amount of money and sophistication and robust analytics that go into selling people's stuff really kind of makes your mind spin. And so then I said, okay, great. I understand the sector and I understand what great technology can do in terms of helping engage people in ways that feel really compelling and actually can be kind of financially really transformative. Then I found Classy and said, it's the best of both worlds. It's essentially, in a lot of ways, e-commerce and digital engagement and kind of quote customer loyalty, but for the sector that needs it the most, that deserves it the most. So I joined Classy, and in my last 4 years here, we've really undergone kind of seismic shifts in how we engage and support our customers and kind of what we can do to help empower them with great technology.
From afar, we've seen those seismic shifts. And so congratulations for what Classy is today and what you all continue to put out to empower nonprofits. That idea of a seismic shift is something that has definitely happened with technology in the last 5 to 10 years. We're not going to talk about the last 2 years because we've talked about it a lot, but I do want to talk about the last 5 to 10 years. And if we can think about like 2012 and what technology looked like then versus 2022, how has the role of technology changed in its seat at the table for nonprofits and for for-profit entities as well?
Well, I love it. So one of the things that we have the benefit of is there has been billions and billions of dollars spent in optimizing technology to make it ever easier and more almost mindless to get consumers to buy. And so one of the things, I will start by saying, it's so frustrating when you work in the nonprofit space and for-profit professionals come in and say like, oh, you just have to model yourselves after us. That is not what I am talking about. It is fundamentally different landscape. You are dealing with different problems. You're not selling widgets. You are trying to transform deep intractable problems, and the people you are engaging with are not necessarily your donors. And so the dynamics are totally different. I am not going to pretend to be able to say, oh, I worked, in the for-profit space. Let me tell you, how to run this. Not at all. What the for-profit world does have that I think we should steal from is an understanding that data at scale can tell you what will work and what will not to get people to act digitally. And then we can steal all those learnings and apply them to engaging donors. And so that visibility at scale of every step on a journey. Where are people finding you? Where are people then learning more about you? Where do people decide to spend money or not to support you? And then do they come back? All of that is benefited by really great technology in ways that you start adding up little points. That's the other thing that, great technology does. It adds up little points of change. And over time, back to the optimization opening, you get massive, massive changes in what you can drive to your cause. And that's the most exciting thing. And that's the changes that have been in place over time. That's internally. Kind of at a macro level, we're all sick of talking about the last 2 years and frankly living through the past 2 years. But what it has done is now everybody is really comfortable with that. So we knew the people who were paying attention to digital engagement channels, we could really figure out ways to talk to them in a way that they felt connected to the cause and they wanted to support. Now that's everybody. Everybody is comfortable online in a way that's really accelerated because of what we've been through in the past 2 years. And that change, you don't get uncomfortable with it. You might want to go out and explore the world again. You might want to engage with nonprofits in a different way. But in terms of that transaction point, kind of that's not going away anymore. And so that's been the really exciting things that we're seeing.
And, it's when you put it into those terms, Soraya, technology, what it was pre-pandemic was a commodity. And it was, I was trying to think of, it's not exactly like a filing cabinet, but essentially you would have these conversations and you would build out your strategy, and then you would have these assets and your way of telling a story, and then you would have this place that you would store it and put it. and that was the place, and that was the technology. And so whether or not you were with Classy or one of your many competitors in the marketplace, that was it. And so, but now, even the way that you all engage your client base, it looks very different for you to be further up and closer to the strategic conversations, not further back as an end delivery mechanism. Can you kind of talk about how that transformation has been either wrestled with, or how you all have processed that internally at Classy as you've seen more of the strategic seat coming about for technology?
I just love this question because it gets at so much of kind of the heart of what we try to do. And I will say there are, hundreds of thousands of nonprofits, and they run across the map in terms of how they think about engaging with technology. So this is, blanket statements that are, not accurate. Your listeners are going to say, well, we weren't here on the spectrum. The fact that they're listening to you means they're probably a little bit more sophisticated than what you're looking at in the landscape. But what we generally saw is there was a real focus on programmatic impact, of course, taking that aside. But on the development space, it was relationships first. And then the sense of you spend a lot of time talking about your impact, putting out, materials to help educate. And then the transaction point felt like a luxury to invest in, because you're just accepting a credit card. If you've really done your job well in telling your story, telling why people should support your cause, the transaction point, they will be moved to give. And it can be seemingly like it might be a big investment for you to buy great technology. And then you feel like you need teams to manage it, and you need teams to kind of support it and optimize. What we've tried to do by measuring everything, we're crazy about our technology, is you tell us your digital strategy, you tell us your fundraising strategy. You know your constituents, you know your programs, you know how to talk about that impact. We will spend lots of money, hire really great technologists, and we will build technology that allows you to elevate that strategy. So we will spend time figuring out, how do you optimize when you've gotten those potential donors' attention? How do you optimize that engagement point to make sure you can capitalize on it? What we have seen is technology is very much not a commodity anymore. I don't know if it ever was, but now we've really got a ton of data to show that it's not. So I'll give you an example. Everybody talks about conversion rates. Well, like, why are conversion rates so different, right? Why would it matter? Like, I'm accepting a credit card, I check out, like, on you go. Maybe it's an obvious statement now, again, because everybody else, everybody's world is digitized, but we launched a payments offering, our own payments offering, Classy Pay. And at the time, even we didn't understand the power of it. We said, we wanted to actually build a platform that helped with better reconciliation on the back end, better, credit card retry attempts if a credit card fails, better recurring capture and credit card updater capabilities. And then we wanted to launch more payment options because we knew that would help. We didn't even understand how transformational great payment options, having lots of payment options, having it processed very quickly, having really great fraud protection, how transformational that can be. We now see that transactions made on Classy Pay are 1.5 times bigger. It's almost $190 versus, let's say, like $120, $130 for non-Classy Pay transactions. Massive differences. Plus the conversion rates on those pages that have Classy Pay, because of all these payment options, because of the speed, are almost 3 percentage points higher. So you start taking your own performance and annualizing what an extra 3 percentage points of conversion is, plus 1.5 times what your average donation size is. You can start seeing, like, oh, maybe I should pay attention to payment options. Maybe I should pay attention to my checkout flow. And I can, give stat after stat, because again, we've become a little obsessed with it, but it really can transform how much you're able to drive to your nonprofit. The other thing I'll add is that, there's about $500 billion of giving, philanthropy, that happens in the US every year. It's always been, a couple of years ago, it was at like 9% was online. We were seeing that grow, about a 10% compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, every year. It's accelerated like crazy, unsurprising. But now the amount that's coming online and the significance of that, it's not pennies that you're optimizing. It's real dollars, and suddenly real dollars to the cause. So yes, a little bit obsessed with this idea. And you were asking a little bit about how we've oriented the company. So I'll take a break just because I'm talking a lot because I'm very excited about this, but I would love to talk about, how do we engage customers to make sure they can see those benefits? And it's not just like, cool, you did some analysis in a vacuum.
Yeah, no, I think I do want to go into orienting the company. I think it would be good. I will say on the payment options front, yesterday. So I was thinking about and kind of mentally getting my mind right for our chat today, Soraya. But I was doing so, and I had to run to the store yesterday, and it wasn't for a last minute Mother's Day gift. I had taken care of that, just so that everyone's aware. And so I was standing in line at a store near my neighborhood that has recently removed all of the physical human resourced checkout stands and replaced every single one of them with the self checkouts. So they still have some people there to kind of monitor and help and that sort of thing, but all physical checkouts are gone. It's all self checkout. And so there was a little bit of a line, and this gentleman in front of me, he had his AirPods in, he was having a conversation, he was trying to hold like 5 bottles of wine without a basket, just hold them while he was waiting in line. And as we got closer and closer to the actual checkout stands, he asked the associate, he said, "Hey, excuse me, do you all take Apple Pay?" And they said no. And he put down the probably $100 bottle, $100 purchase with those bottles of wine and walked out. And so it was like I was watching the idea of an abandoned cart in person, like in real life. But it was such a perfect like tee up for my mind of and Ron, you've talked about this as well. Payment options, it's not what you immediately think of as something that should be at the forefront of your digital strategy, but maybe it should be. I mean, Ronnie, you were sharing something similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I'm lunch, I'm going to order on my phone, and if I've had different experiences with different apps from restaurants that are near my house, and it's, if one is seamless, I'm going to go back to that one. If all I have to do is punch in my order and click a button to pay versus having to stop, enter in my credit card info and all this different stuff, it slows me down. And, I hate to say it, I'm not going to give up on you because of that, but that idea of making it easy on the consumer, or in this case, the donor and the nonprofit, it makes a difference.
It does. One of the things we do several studies a year just to get a sense of, one, we've got so much platform data. We processed over $1 billion of donations last year on thousands and thousands of campaigns. So we can do a lot of analysis internally, but we also do this study ahead of giving season every year, which is a consumer sentiment study. So it's called Why America Gives. Last year, we went out and said, tried to understand in the mind of the donor what compels somebody to give. Where are they learning about causes? Where are they deciding to give? And then what might drive them away? And we asked about donor experience and, what will make you give? And then what will make you reconsider your gifts? And of course, maybe surprisingly, maybe unsurprisingly, what drives you to give? Exactly the inverse is what makes you reconsider your gift. And the top thing that makes people want to give is clearly understanding the impact they have, which, all donation pages, all good websites have, a sense of where are those donations going. The second thing out of everything that makes you think about giving has nothing to do with a nonprofit. They said, do I see the payment options I care about? That's the second thing on their list. And that I just think is fascinating, that you have made all of this time to discover a cause, to get engaged, to get all the way to the donation page. And if they don't have a payment option you like, it's like, I just really don't want to get up off the couch. And that's horrible to hear. These are, nonprofits spending so much time fixing these amazing, addressing these huge problems, trying to do this great work in the world. And you're like, no, my donors would get up off the couch for me. Not some of them would, but not all of them. And you don't want to miss out on those donations, especially when now you can outsource that work. Like get a good tech platform, partner with them. Don't worry about it. You shouldn't have to figure that out. You are doing more important things. We can figure that out for you. But things like PayPal and Venmo and digital wallets and ACH, it drives different donor behavior. And so it's not donor intent, it's the execution of it. That gap between intent and execution is what we're trying to kind of address.
And it almost like, I mean, it hints at the fragility of the conversion process, because
Yes.
ultimately, if that payment option that you either mildly prefer or strongly prefer isn't there, you're just like the guy in front of me in line to then all of a sudden, it's not worth it. I've stood here for 20 minutes, but it's not worth it because I don't have the, I'm not gonna be able to pay the way that I want to pay or need to pay.
That's right. And I think people's intentions are good. I've been I was about to say a victim of it. No, I've been a perpetrator of this, where I'll be on my couch and I'll be watching something. I'll see a news segment. I'll read something on my phone, go to the site, want to give, not have my credit card in front of me and say, it's okay, I'll come back. I'll leave the browser open. Well, 10 minutes later, I'm actually looking up a recipe and I've completely forgotten, and I have the best of intentions. And you lost me in that moment. I might have every intention to come back. I might say I'm going to come back. It doesn't happen though. So that's right. We don't want to lose anybody through that journey.
Yeah, we have so many things pulling our attention away. You have to make it absolutely seamless for donors. One of the things I'm thinking of, Soraya, is, we're talking a lot about individual gifts and smaller donors, but if we're thinking about major gifts and major donors, we don't often think about digital payments for them. Is there some way that that's moving into the digital space, or is that still that one-on-one, that personal connection, handing a check to someone? Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that move into digital more?
We are. It's a really good question, because there's always been this sense, and I'll answer it almost from two lenses. One is actual just donation sizes back to payment options. I know I sound kind of obsessed about this. It's because I am. I think it's really powerful as we've learned more about it. The other is actually a generational divide. So on the generational side, again, you tend to see bigger gifts with older people who have established more wealth. You are seeing the preference of where to give go to digital for every generation except the silent generation. So you're talking baby boomers on down now, per our surveys, prefer giving online. So they are not giving online either because it's complicated, or they're nervous about fees, or they want, some other point of friction. But for major gifts is really dependent on the organization and the size. Some benefit from, a major gift size that is an order of magnitude bigger than some other organizations. But we do see that as you introduce options like ACH, kind of bank transfer, you see donation sizes double versus credit card. And one of the things we're learning as we talk to these organizations is the big donors are really sophisticated about fees, and there are credit card processing fees. So as you can optimize your payment options to minimize fees to the organization, the big donors are more likely to go online because they know more dollars are going to the cause, and they're really in the boat with you on that, and they're really sensitive. And we can kind of offer that depending on if the organization prefers it. The other thing is we see much bigger recurring donations on these alternative payment methods, and recurring donations staying for longer. So again, when you talk about total donation size, recurring donations end up being much more valuable over time. You hang on to them longer, and so it's more money to your cause in the end. And you see people preferring things like ACH, even PayPal, to make their recurring gifts. They make them at a higher rate. They choose to do recurring at a higher rate, and they give much more than they would on other payment offerings. And it's funny because I mentioned the first two reasons that people want to give or draw trust in your organization. The first being they understand the impact, the second being payment options. The third that they say is actually the ability to cover their fees. Like these donors want the dollars to go to the cause, and they're willing to take on some of the payment processing costs to do that. And so that's really great that the major donors, it's almost a behavior of taking care of the organization more than anything else. But again, a check is friction. Like that is going to drive people away. So do you want to have the option to minimize any chance of losing that donor along the way, and that's absolutely true. So
it's so interesting, and it's just evidence, as we said, that technology has to be a part of strategy now. That
right.
we honestly can't afford for it not to be, because you're just missing out if it's not sitting at the front to talk through the way that we can empower these great tools to go further for us. So
Justin, real quick. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say that I have a quick stat that I just looked up because I was curious. You mentioned the cover the fee, and I remember we had written about this on our blog, that we found 51% of donors opt in when you present them with cover the fee, and that gives an additional 1.84% of digital revenue, which can add up to a lot and make a big difference.
It makes a big difference. We actually see it even higher on our platform. And the latest stat for the people that have kind of opted in fees, kind of defaulted, it's about 80%. So it's a big deal. And donors really want to take on that support. And they're really happy to do it. And the other thing I'll say, nonprofits get sometimes nervous when I talk to our customers that you do that and it's going to basically cannibalize the total donation amount. They wanted to give 150, but they opt in to cover the fees, so they give 120. We don't see that at all. It doesn't change the core donation amount through our testing, which is really encouraging. It's just a little bit of extra support. So how do you nudge people to, just round up? That's a really easy way. One of the things I did want to say, I kind of alluded to it early on, but you're talking about technology being core. Just again, I think the idea of comparative advantage is really important here. I will not be a better fundraiser than your audience. I will not be a better development director ever. That is not my job. And so we are very clear about kind of the role we play, which is you are the development director. You know your constituency best. You know what you want to try to drive. My job is to build great technology. I mean, we are spending over $100 million in our platform this year to make sure it's great for you. So you don't have to think about things like stability and security and technological innovation and building things like, crypto acceptance. Like, that's our job. And so your job is to tell us what you're trying to do. Our job is to make sure the technology can support you at scale. And, the things we're seeing around, honestly, fraud risk and I mentioned security, like these require big investments. It would be a little bit reckless for individual nonprofits to each try to build it up themselves. That is the beauty of technology platforms. But it's definitely not to say that, we can supplant great fundraising professionals. This is just in service of that work. And we see ourselves as an extension of your teams and trying to drive that. So
Soraya, I'm really glad you mentioned that. It kind of comes back to that little sub thread that we pivoted off of earlier, which was the idea of the orientation of the company, because I do think that that's important, that that there is a need for technology to be core and a need for it to be a part of strategy, but it's not replacing someone else's swim lane.
Definitely
that it's
not.
coming alongside and making sure that we're having these really important discussions and decisions up front so that we can ultimately divide and conquer. And I say that as the member of ultimately a marketing company that works alongside technology and other partners to sit at the table with a nonprofit. So we're definitely aligned on that point. You mentioned the State of Modern Philanthropy study. So tell us a little bit about the study itself, and because it's coming out in the next couple of weeks. It'll be out just after this episode is published. Beyond more great information about payment options, what can people expect or look forward to in this year's study?
Yeah, this is something that we've done. Oh, I'm gonna forget. Is this the 4th or 5th year? I want to say probably 5th year we've published this report. Every kind of spring, early summer, we publish the State of Modern Philanthropy, and it's taking all of our campaigns and all of the transactions and all of the great kind of platform data that we have and aggregating it to find important trends. And then we publish it out for the sector, not just for our customers. We want everybody to have this information. We're really doing this in service of just better digital fundraising. And so the way that we've organized it this year is actually following a donor journey through a conversion funnel. And so really traditional marketing of where are people coming from? Where do they discover your cause? Where do they come to the platform pages? What makes them convert or not? And then how do you hold on to them? And so we've kind of set it up as almost a choose your own adventure. There's like an interactive site that we've built where you say, this is where I'm thinking about. This is what I want to focus on this year or, this next quarter. And you can just hone in on, really great data points with a little bit of editorial context around like, what is that saying? So when you say things like, okay, ticketed events saw the most year-over-year growth on customers who are around last year, who are around this year, we are seeing like a 50% growth in donation volume. Where is this coming from? How are people wanting to engage? What does the hybrid event space look like? We get really far into that. And yes, that was an exciting little stat to throw in. Yes, we were seeing events come back, almost all hybrid events. We can talk about that. Or security, we've got, with certain payment offerings, again, you can reduce security risk substantially. And like, what does that mean for your organization? When you think about recurring, we do a lot around social media. So social media is a huge channel where audiences discover your cause. Facebook, by far the most, almost 90% of people who come from social are coming from Facebook. LinkedIn is much, much smaller, but actually has the highest conversion rates. And so those are much more, it's less casual observers or curiosity seekers. It's much more people who are saying like, yes, I will support you. So lots of little nuggets like that that we're hoping is useful for whatever the fundraising agenda is.
We're excited to see that that study come out, and that's not all that's coming from Classy. Just at the outset of our conversation, one of your colleagues dropped us a note, and so I wanted to mention and tease out the collaborative conference that Classy is hosting in Philadelphia this summer. So it's July 15th and 16th.
June. It's in June.
June 15th and 16th.
Yes.
And so it's both on-site and virtual, right?
That's right. Yes.
So so the on-site portion is in Philly. So for our East Coast listeners, you can check it out. But then there's also a virtual option. Tickets are on sale now at collaborative.classy.org. So folks can head there and check that out.
It's a really good conference. We've done it for years and years and years. The focus is very specifically on fundraising and specifically digital fundraising. It's not just a user conference. We really try to orient the programs to be, what's the latest and greatest thinking. We have a whole user conference day the first day, but then 2 days of just general programming. It's always a really funky conference. Like there's no stuffy hotel room, hotel ballrooms. Like this is a really cool venue. But the most important thing for us is you can attend, a million webinars online. We love webinars, but there's a dynamism of the conversations that happen outside of the panel room. So we've got amazing speakers, but the more important thing is I just get so much inspiration talking to other people in this space, and that's what we wanted to really facilitate and why we said the virtual component is amazing. We're really proud of it. It's not enough, and so we're happy to be able to be back with people. Frankly, back to the rise in events volume. Like we are not exempted from this. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, and it's well said. I'll tell you that one of the reasons why we even began investing in this podcast was to try in some way to capture some of the dynamism that happens in person at events and at things like the collaborative conference, because some of the more transformative conversations or seeds can oftentimes just be planted if it's you having coffee with someone and the connections that you make and then what comes from those. And so we love that you all are investing in that. And so June 15th and 16th, collaborative.classy.org. You can find out information about speakers and all that kind of stuff. We've actually got a discount code that we'll hand out to our audience as well, so that they can get 20% off of registration if they're interested in attending. And so Soraya, that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. I hope I see a lot of people there, and it's a really fun event. It's just fascinating. I mean, the speakers, the opportunity to meet with everybody, just leaders from the sector, it just can't be replaced. So yeah, thanks for mentioning it. We're thrilled.
Of course, we wouldn't be a good marketing company if we weren't comfortable plugging something. So there's that.
That's what everybody walks away from. It's collaborative and payment options matter.
Yeah, collaborative and payment options.
That's right.
That's exactly right. Soraya, this has been really fun chatting with you, and we really appreciate your time today and appreciate you sharing some of the data that you have from your from the new study that's coming out ahead of time to give people a sneak peek, but just for helping lean in and helping our audience think about their use of technology different. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I hope if anybody wants to chat more, you know, I'm always available. You can find me on LinkedIn, you know, all the ways, but I just love, I love the work we do. I love what it can support. I love the just incredible creative people that we are able to serve. And so I'm always happy to reconnect, and thank you so much for the time and the opportunity to speak with you both.
For sure. So you can find Soraya's information on the Classy site, as she mentioned. Also connect with her on LinkedIn. I'll tell you, you know, we always make a point to say that if you like this episode, check out our other episodes and all of our content on the Group Thinkers blog at rkdgroup.com. Classy also has a tremendous amount of great content that they put out, and so would encourage you to check that out. Ronnie, anything that I've missed today?
I think we got it covered. Payment options, right? And then I feel like we also have to mention that you didn't hear any dogs on this podcast.
So. I was gonna say,
I think mission accomplished.
Accomplished.
No dogs or kids on this episode.
So. There you go.
Or window washers behind Soraya.
No window washers behind me today. Yeah, that's right. Thanks
Very
so
cool.
much.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. We'll see you down the road.
Take care.